It's funny. The things you worry about in life. You worry about a spark from a grinder, a faulty wire in the wall, an act of God written in thunder and lightning. You never worry about the person who's supposed to help you after the disaster. The one with the friendly, reassuring face who sells you the promise. The one who is supposed to be your safety net. You trust them. You pay them for years, faithfully. A silent, invisible partner in your life's work. But what happens when you finally fall and you reach for that safety net, only to find that it's a spider's web, very much designed to trap you, drain you, and leave you for dead? My name is Frank. I'm 52 years old. And for the past 25 years, I was a custom cabinet maker. My workshop wasn't just a place of business. It was my sanctuary. The rich, sharp smell of sawdust and varnish was the air I breathed. Every tool, from the massive table saw to the tiniest hand-chiseled gouge, was an extension of my own hands. I'd bought each one with calloused fingers and long, 14-hour days. It was my legacy, the tangible result of a life spent creating. The one thing I was going to pass down to my son. And then, one cold, windy Tuesday night in October, it was all gone. The fire started in the building next door, an old textile warehouse that had been vacant for years, a damn tinderbox just waiting for a spark. The fire department did everything they could, their massive hoses pouring thousands of gallons of water onto the inferno. But it was like trying to put out a volcano with a squirt gun. I stood there, behind the yellow tape, helpless, watching the orange flames lick the night sky, devouring the neighboring building, and then, with a horrifying roar, leaping across the alley to my workshop, to my life. By the time the sun came up, my sanctuary was a smoldering, waterlogged skeleton of its former self. Everything was gone. Decades of work, irreplaceable tools my own father had given me. Half-finished kitchen cabinets for a family that had waited 6 months for my work. All of it, just a pile of black ash and twisted, unrecognizable metal. I was heartbroken, hollowed out. But a small part of me, a tiny flicker of hope, held on to a single thought. I had insurance. I had a great policy with a major, reputable company. For 20 years, I'd met with my local agent, a guy named Gary, for a yearly review. Gary was a nice man, a pillar of the community. We'd talk about our kids, the local football team. He'd pat me on the back and say, "Frank, you're in good hands. If the worst ever happens, we've got your back." He was the friendly face of the massive corporation. The human connection that made you trust the fine print. This is what all those payments were for. This was the moment that promise was supposed to mean something. The first few days were a blur of phone calls and paperwork. I called Gary's office first. He was deeply sympathetic, but his tone was different, distant. "Oh, Frank, that's just awful news," he said. "Look, this is a major claim, so it's going to be handled by our national catastrophe team now. It's out of my hands, but they're the best." He gave me a toll-free number. Suddenly, the friendly face was gone, replaced by an anonymous 1-800 number. I was no longer Frank, his longtime client. I was a claim number. They assigned me a senior adjuster from the national team, a woman named Cynthia Reed. She sounded professional on the phone, her voice dripping with practiced, corporate sympathy. "Don't you worry about a thing, Mr. Miller," she'd said in that smooth, reassuring voice. "I'm personally overseeing your case. We're going to take care of you. We'll get you back on your feet." She came out to the site a few days later, dressed in an immaculate pantsuit, picking her way through the debris in expensive-looking boots. She asked a lot of questions, nodding, taking notes on a tablet. Her questions seemed innocent, but now I can see the malice behind them. "So, Frank, any flammable liquids you use that aren't on the standard inventory list?" "Just for my records, to make sure we get everything covered." "Was anyone else on the property that night? Any employees? Friends?" "No." "Okay, good to know." She was building a case, not processing a claim. I just didn't know it yet. I trusted her. I trusted the system. Weeks turned into a month. Then 6 weeks. Then 2 agonizing months. The seasons began to change, but my life was frozen in that post-fire limbo. My clients were understanding, but they couldn't wait forever. I had to start returning deposits, money I desperately needed. I was burning through my savings just to pay the mortgage. The stress was immense, a physical weight on my chest that never went away. It was putting a strain on my marriage, on everything. I called Cynthia every few days. Her tone started to shift dramatically. The warm sympathy was replaced by a cool, detached, almost annoyed efficiency. These things take time, Mr. Miller. The claim is still under a complex review. As I said in my last email, I will call you when I have an update. She made me feel like I was bothering her. Like my life's work, being in ashes, was a personal inconvenience to her. And then, the letter arrived. A thick, formal envelope that felt cold to the touch, heavy with bad news. My heart pounded in my chest. As I tore it open, my hands shaking so badly I could barely read the words. After a thorough and exhaustive investigation, we regret to inform you that your claim, number 74B91, has been denied. Denied. The word echoed in the silent kitchen. It was a physical blow. How? Why? I kept reading, my vision blurring. The letter was a masterpiece of corporate jargon and legal doublespeak, but the reason for the denial was buried deep in the third paragraph. Denial is based on Policy Exclusion 12.c, regarding the use and storage of unapproved volatile accelerants. An eyewitness account, obtained during our investigation, confirmed the presence of several unlabeled containers of said accelerants in the primary workspace. In direct violation of your policy terms and a material misrepresentation of the risk. Volatile accelerants. They were talking about lacquer thinner and turpentine. Standard, essential materials for any woodworker. Stored in the two bright yellow state-of-the-art safety cabinets that the fire code required. Cabinets that were listed on my policy. And an eyewitness? My workshop was in a locked, fenced-in industrial park at the edge of town. I was the only one with a key. The fire happened at 2 a.m. Who could have possibly been there, peering into my window? It was a lie. A complete, utter, baffling, and insulting lie. I grabbed the phone and called Cynthia, my mind, a storm of confusion and rage. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I called her direct line 10 more times, my desperation turning to a cold, hard anger. She was ghosting me. Finally, her assistant picked up, her voice sharp with annoyance. Ms. Reed is in a meeting, sir. She has your file. She has made her determination. The company's decision is final. I hung up the phone and just stood there, the denial letter clutched in my fist, the paper wrinkled into a pulp. They thought I would just accept it. They thought they could hide behind their legal jargon and their stonewalling, and that I, Frank Miller, the simple cabinet maker, would just curl up and die. They had no idea who they were dealing with. They had burned down my life's work, and now I was going to burn down their wall of lies. This was a fight, and I was just getting started. For the next 2 days, I was a man possessed. I barely ate. I barely slept. I converted my dining room into a war room. I had stacks of paperwork, my full insurance policy, every email I'd ever exchanged with the company, the inventory lists, the fire department's preliminary report. I was looking for a crack, a mistake, anything. And I found it. It was a small thing, so small I'd missed it the first time I'd read the letter through my tears. In the denial letter, they listed the date the eyewitness statement was taken. It was October 28. The inspector they had sent to my property, their own expert, hadn't filed his official report until November 5. Why would they be seeking out and taking a formal statement from an eyewitness a full week before their own expert had even determined the cause of the fire? It felt backward. It felt wrong. It was the first loose thread, and I knew if I pulled on it hard enough, the whole damn sweater of lies would unravel. My first step was to demand a full copy of my claim file. I knew from some late-night Googling that, by law, they had to provide it. I sent a certified letter, formal and firm, demanding every document, every note, every recording, and every photograph related to my case. A week later, a thick, heavy box arrived, and inside, buried in hundreds of pages, I found her name. The Eyewitness. Statement of Karen Holloway. I didn't know anyone named Karen Holloway. The statement was preposterous. She claimed she was out for a late-night walk and saw me through the workshop window, handling unmarked red cans recklessly. It was pure fiction. Next, I filed a public records request for the full, unredacted fire marshal's report. When I got it, I read every page 3 times. There was no mention of any eyewitness. Not one. The report concluded definitively that the fire had started next door and spread to my property due to high winds. It explicitly stated my workshop was secured and locked when they arrived. So, where did Karen Holloway come from? This is where my son, a tech-savvy kid in college, became my lead investigator. I gave him the name. "Dad, there are thousands of Karen Holloways," he said. "Do you know anything else about her?" I didn't. So we started digging. We searched for the name in my city, then the state. We cross-referenced it with social media. And that's when we got our first hit. A Facebook profile for a Karen Holloway, who lived just 2 towns over. Her profile was mostly private, but her friends list wasn't. I scrolled through the hundreds of names to see of faces. And then I saw it. A name that made the hair on my arms stand up. Cynthia Reed, my adjuster, was Facebook friends with Karen Holloway, the mysterious eyewitness who was out for a stroll at 2 a.m. in a deserted industrial park. It was the aha moment. A jolt of pure, vindicating adrenaline that cut through the fog of my despair. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a conspiracy. A coordinated, deliberate lie designed to cheat me out of the money I was owed. The pieces started falling into place with terrifying speed. My son, now fully invested in the hunt, did a deeper dive. He found photos of them together, going back years. College friends. They'd been in the same sorority. There were pictures of them on vacation together in Mexico just last summer, margaritas in hand. Cynthia Reed hadn't just found an eyewitness. She had manufactured one. She had used her old college buddy to create a fictional statement to invent a reason, any reason, to deny my massive claim. But why? The motive, I suspected, wasn't personal. It was business. I started researching insurance adjuster practices. I went down a rabbit hole of industry blogs, forums for disgruntled claimants, and even court documents from past lawsuits against this very company. And I found the motive: performance metrics. Adjusters, especially at these massive corporations, were under immense pressure. They had quotas, not for claims paid, but for claims denied or settled under value. My claim was huge, nearly $500,000. Denying a claim of that size would be a massive win for Cynthia. It would look incredible on her record. It could mean a promotion, a huge year-end bonus, thousands of dollars in her pocket, paid for by the ashes of my life. I realized her secret wasn't just about my claim. This was her system. This was her playbook. How many other people had she done this to? How many other families or small business owners had been crushed by a denial based on a lie from a trusted eyewitness who was really just her friend from college? How many people had just given up, defeated by the corporate stonewalling, never knowing they'd been cheated? My anger was no longer just for me. It was for them. All of them. I had the proof. The social media connection. The fire marshal's report that contradicted the witness statement. My own security logs, showing no one had entered the property. I had the lie, the liar, and the motive. Now, it was time for the confrontation. But I wasn't going to waste my time with Cynthia. She was just a soldier. I was going after the general. I spent a full week drafting a letter. A masterpiece of controlled rage. It was not addressed to the claims department, but to the company's chief legal officer and the head of the Special Investigations Unit, their internal fraud department. I found their names and direct office addresses through a corporate database my son had access to. I laid out my case with the cold, hard precision of a surgeon. I didn't plead or complain. I simply presented the facts, numbered, one after another, in chronological order. I attached copies of everything. The fire marshal's report, the conflicting dates, screenshots of Cynthia and Karen's social media pages, their vacation photos, everything. I concluded the letter with a simple, chilling statement. I have documented, irrefutable evidence of what appears to be a coordinated conspiracy by your employee, Cynthia Reed, to commit insurance fraud for financial gain, using a personal acquaintance, Karen Holloway, to file a fraudulent witness statement. This is my final attempt to resolve this matter internally. I expect a direct response from your office within 48 hours before I forward this entire, comprehensive file to the State Department of Insurance, the District Attorney's Office, and the investigative reporting team at the largest newspaper in this state. I sent 2 copies overnight with signature confirmation. The silence was deafening for about 36 hours. I think that's how long it took for the panic to travel up the corporate ladder. And then, the storm broke. I didn't get a call from the claims department. I got a call on my cell phone from a senior vice president of North American operations, a man whose voice oozed panic and frantic damage control. "Mr. Miller," he began, his tone a mixture of terror and apology. "My name is Arthur Vance. I want to personally and on behalf of our entire company apologize for the egregious and unacceptable errors in the handling of your claim. We have opened an internal investigation of the highest priority." The shift was instantaneous. I was no longer an inconvenience. I was a 5-alarm fire in their corporate headquarters. The SVP told me Cynthia Reed had been suspended, effective immediately, pending termination. He told me my claim was being immediately reopened and reassigned to his personal office. He told me they would be expediting payment for the full policy amount, no questions asked. He offered to pay for my legal fees, my lost income during the delay, and a substantial additional settlement for emotional distress and bad faith practices. He was throwing money at me, hoping to make the problem go away before I went public. I accepted, but not before I made good on my promise. As soon as I hung up with him, I compiled my file into a neat package and sent it to the State Department of Insurance anyway. Because this was never just about my money. It was about the principle. It was about Cynthia Reed and the corrupt system that encouraged her behavior. The last I heard, she was fired and was facing a state-level investigation that could strip her of her license for life and potentially lead to criminal charges. Her friend, Karen Holloway, was also being investigated for making a fraudulent statement. The check from the insurance company didn't fix everything. It didn't bring back the tools I'd spent a lifetime collecting or the unique scent of cedar and sawdust in my old workshop. But it was a start. It was justice. It allowed me to rebuild bigger and better than before. What I learned from this nightmare is that these companies are not your friends. They are businesses. And some of their employees will do anything to improve their bottom line, even if it means destroying your life. So, document everything, every call, every email. Record conversations, if it's legal in your state. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And never, ever let them bully you into silence. The truth is your most powerful weapon. You have to be willing to fight for it. Because I can promise you, they are counting on you giving up before the real fight even begins.